Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. You are listening to the Daly Dose Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Clint Daly, coming to you from the Mile High City here in Denver, Colorado. And we are back for another week of talking sports with a dose of common sense. Hey, happy Wednesday to you. Hope your week is going well. You are now reaching that halfway point through another week. That's always a good thing when we can get to another weekend. Hope your week is going well. Hope you, your family, your friends, everyone in your world is staying strong and staying healthy right now. And hey, we are now in August, and we now actually have some preseason football going. That is at least encouraging, because July and August, hey, I'm not going to lie, they're pretty tough months. There's not a whole lot to watch. Everything is in repeats. Now we're starting to inch closer to that football season. But I got to ask you, did you watch any of that Hall of Fame game last Thursday night? A little tough to watch. The Cleveland Browns beat the New York Jets 21-16 in what was mostly, well, a pretty hideous game. It was brutal. And I watched a decent portion of it, and it went exactly as I thought it would and as I predicted that it would last week here on The Dose. I mean, we had bad football. We didn't have many starters. We didn't get a weather delay, but we did get a power outage. So basically the same thing, right? Except that I just kind of figured Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers wanted to drop more acid in the dark, so that wasn't really that unexpected either. One kind of rough moment that I think we have to discuss, we've got to talk about a little bit. Hall of Fame inductee pass rusher DeMarcus Ware actually performed the national anthem prior to the game. Now, it wasn't like the guy can't sing. He can. But one, his mic was very, very low, so he was real quiet. And then two, he stretched what should be around a 90-second song into about 15 minutes. That was kind of rough. But I guess he had dedicated that performance to his former teammate, the late wide receiver Demaryius Thomas. So I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack. Besides, it was still better than Fergie's national anthem a few years ago. But I think the one surprise that I didn't see coming from that mess of a game last week was the overreaction by fans and the sports media world as though that game mattered in any way whatsoever. That was really, really surprising to me. I didn't expect that. If you missed it, there are a number of people in the sports media world who are trying to spin that Jets backup quarterback Zach Wilson might be back. I don't know how that works. He was never there to begin with. And he could even be a better option at quarterback for the Jets than acid-dropping Aaron Rodgers. They're basing this on him going 3 for 5 for 65 yards. He did have a touchdown against what was basically like the Browns, 7th or 8th string defense. Are we really supposed to believe anything we saw in this awful game? Is that how far we've fallen? Are we going to believe what we saw in a meaningless first preseason game? Come on. I mean, the next thing the sports media will be telling us is that, hey, you should watch this boxing match between some media clown and a former MMA guy that obviously has significant CTE, and that is going to be the greatest thing coming out of the world of boxing. That's like the best the world of boxing has to offer. Who would believe that? I mean, no one. No one would actually be dumb enough to buy a fight like that, right? You'd have to be a complete imbecile. Yeah. Hey, before we jump in today, just want to remind you, be sure you're stopping by DailyDoseSports.com, where we have new articles going up every week. While here at The Dose on the podcast, we talk about a number of items. Usually on the Daly Dose website, we do write articles that might have a little more local flavor, although they could be about anything. But we also have links to the podcast over there. We have links to the video. We have links to Daly Dose gear. If you need a new t-shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie, be sure you stop by DailyDoseSports.com every single week and pick up exactly what it is that you need. But we do have a number of things in the sports news world that we need to talk about, so let's go ahead and jump into that. Well, kids, Team USA was the heavy favorite heading into the 2023 FIFA World Cup down in Australia this year. And so, Team USA has spent the last year or so complaining about their salaries, complaining about how misogynistic the United States is, and then they went down under and promptly pooped their self-righteous pants and got sent home from the tournament earlier than they ever have in the history of the World Cup. You know, Team USA, they couldn't score all tournament, and they couldn't finish when they had to in this tournament. And in the elimination round of 16, it was exactly the same thing on Sunday. They just couldn't execute when it mattered the most. Early Sunday morning, I think it started at like 3 a.m. or something, at least here Denver time, the U.S. played Sweden. And after 2 halves of scoreless soccer, during which the U.S. had a number of opportunities to score, they once again failed to score. They couldn't find the back of the net. They were always just a step off, always just missing by just a skosh. So the United States went to extra time for the 4th time, I might add, in World Cup history. No one scored in the extra time. And so the game went to penalty kicks. Okay, well, go win this thing. After taking a 3-2 lead in the best-of-5 shootout, the United States managed to choke their final 2 kicks. And Sweden scored their final 2 kicks, and Sweden tied it to now go to a 1-kick playoff. After missing yet again on their second kick, Sweden scored a goal that was actually so close, they had to go to video review to see if it had crossed the line. It had. And we saw the women's U.S. team earliest exit ever in World Cup history. And you know, you may hear some things from the sports media world, especially from, the worldwide leader in sports, because they're trying to get people to watch women's sports. And you may hear them say things like, hey, this is a good young team. This may be good for them. They're going to be primed for the Olympics in a couple years. They're going to be ready for the next World Cup. And maybe that's all true. I don't know. But make no mistake, this was an absolute choke job by a team that had kind of become selfish and had become divisive. I mean, veteran Megan Rapinoe announced prior to the Cup that she was going to retire afterward. But why? Why make it about you? Why do you have to even announce that? You don't have to put added pressure on you and your team. By the way, she, of course, missed one of those penalty kicks and missed the goal completely when she did. But again, and I said this back when Mike Krzyzewski did this with Duke, why do you make it about yourself? Why do you have to bring that extra pressure? Why do you have to put that on your team? There was no reason for it. Why not just go play and kind of see what happens, and you can make that announcement later? But this is where our women's team is right now. A lot of personal agendas. A lot of talking politics instead of apparently practicing penalty kicks. And now this team has a number of questions about other members that also might retire. Julie Ertz says she's done. Goalie Alyssa Naher is in her late 30s. Alex Morgan is now 34. The coaching staff was completely non-existent. We didn't see adjustments. We didn't see improvements. We never saw them. Okay, well, they're getting better every game. No, it kind of seemed like they regressed the entire game. Make no mistake, Team USA absolutely choked in this World Cup. No discredit to Sweden, and especially that goalie who was incredible. But this was an all-time choke job by the United States, and they deserve all the criticism that they are going to get. Hey, YouTube, make sure you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast, because this week on The Dose, we do have a couple of other things coming out in the world of sports news, especially in the NCAA, where we are seeing conferences realign all over the place. Teams are jumping everywhere. But then we are ramping up for the coming college football season. Which teams have the easiest path? and which teams could have the hardest path. We're taking a little bit closer look at some schedules today in both college football and the NFL. And our Daily Dose Top 5 is something you might want to check out as well. Who are the teams that have had the most success, at least recently, in college football? The answer might surprise you. So be sure you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast. I will leave a link here in the comments on YouTube for you. Hope you all are doing well. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week.